sleeping and it's soothing him.
He's okay. So
And we're live.
he's awake. I don't know. He may not. Well, we'll see. We'll see if it's all going to depend on. Well, it looks like the rain is going to hold off until 8, and so hey everyone, I'm running behind today. We've also had massive rainstorms today in Baltimore. I sent Shell a picture. It was like pitch black at like 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon here. Simpson does not like rainstorms, so he has been very vocal. Right now, we're just kind of chilling. So we're going to do our LinkedIn Live. So apologize that I'm the reason we are late. I completely own that. So welcome. And this is LinkedIn Rockstar. This is LinkedIn Rockstar Academy. So our bi-weekly LinkedIn Live, we're going to continue our branding discussion. I'm going to pass the mic over to Shell, have her introduce herself for the first time for those that are joining us that haven't seen us before. And then I'll do the same. And then in the meantime, if you guys can drop where you're from, who you are, what you do in the chat, that would be great because we also would love for you guys to connect with one another. Okay, Shell, take it away.
For the first time, for the last time, for all the time. Did, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. I'll introduce myself first and then say the immediate thought that just jumped into my head. So hey everyone, I'm your LinkedIn cheerleader, Shell. For anyone who has been here before, welcome back. We're so excited to have you. For anyone who's new here, this is LinkedIn Rockstar Academy, and we are just wrapping up at the end of personal branding, our first personal branding month. And we've been talking about how to discover and refine your personal brand and why that's important over the last few weeks. And why that's really important to me and the work that I do is because I help people engage more effectively on the platform. And to do that, you really need to know and understand what your goals are for the platform and also why you're here, like why you do what you do. Because we can't craft a story around your online presence, aka how you show up on LinkedIn, until we get to the bottom of that. And so that ties directly into how I work with people and what I really want you guys to know about the way that you engage. It all stems from building that personal brand. So I'm here to support you guys. If you want to continue this conversation beyond today's LinkedIn Live, you can always catch the replay here if you're not able to stick around for the full time, or if you want to come back and like get a recap and like dive in a little bit more, pause and do things, take notes, whatever works for you. This will be here as a resource for you. Love that. Thank you, LinkedIn, and also on YouTube if you're watching over there. Nell, why don't you introduce yourself? Because you kind of just blew by that and didn't do it.
Yeah, I was like, well, I kind of blew in here like the storm that we've had here in Baltimore, and I know New Jersey apparently is under the same severe thunderstorm watches we are as well. So for those that don't know who I am, my name is Melanie Mitchell Wexler. I am a career coach as well as a LinkedIn strategist. And one of the things that people actually somebody asked me this today. It's like, well, do you help other people besides job seekers? And I said, you know what? In fact, I do. I actually help all, let's start this over. I help entrepreneurs, I help small business owners, and I help consultants as well. And so one of the things that I do when I coach is to be able to understand what your goals are, but also, and how can we reach them using LinkedIn? So that's one of the things that I really love doing, is being able to take your LinkedIn presence to a point of being found, seen, and heard. And I am so excited to talk about tonight's topic, continue to talk about tonight's topic. And one of the reasons is personal branding sometimes gets a bad rap in discussions, truthfully and honestly. For a long time, I don't even know if I knew what my personal brand was, to be very honest with you, when I first started. Or if you had said to me like, when I was a recruiter, do you have a personal brand? I would have been like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't have that concept. I definitely, when I first started my business, I was like, well, I'm a career coach, I'm a former recruiter. But, that's all kind of surface level. What does that really mean? And this is really important, whether you're looking to obtain clients, whatever your goal is, really, whether it's finding a job. I know even job seekers are sometimes like, like, I don't need a personal brand. What the heck are you talking about? And you do. You need a personal brand. And I'm going to start this conversation off with why. Why do we need the personal brand? We need the personal brand simply because of this. Um, Today's world's really competitive. There's a lot of options. So whether you're job seeking, whether you're looking for clients, whether you're looking to build, out a network, there's a lot of options. So why should somebody choose you? Why should they choose you? So let's just start to kind of dive into some additional work on how you can get to that how you can get to that personal brand. You may also hear people call it your UVP, a unique value proposition, which is tied to your personal brand, things of that nature. Um, but here's the other thing. If you have a question, please feel free to drop it in the chat. We definitely would love to have this be an interactive session. Love to know what your thoughts are. Do you like the thought of having a personal brand? And then I'd also love for you guys to answer this question. What's one word or phrase you'd love to be known for professionally? So, and I'll drop that in the chat as well. And I want to say a quick shout out to Meryl and Adrian and Shell. Thoughts on
And Lisa's also in the house.
Oh, perfect. I missed that. I apologize. So I promise I'm going to get it together, folks. I am going to get it together. So it's been kind of a crazy week. But that all being said, um, we sometimes get the messaging from people that personal branding is just fluff. It doesn't really have any significance. How do we debunk that personal branding is not fluff, that it actually is significant and it is important for all of us to truly understand
Yeah, I mean, it's so much more than just like marketing. It's not just all like logos and colors and fonts, or like layouts and designs and the way that you create the content. It's all about the way that you show up and tell the story of who you are, what you want people to know about you, how you serve others. And wrap that in a nice little bow. That's and why you do those things and why it's so important to you. You could wrap that in a nice little packaged bow with a bow, and that's your personal brand. Like, of course you can add all the bells and whistles to it that you want after that, but if you don't know that initial like transformation story, or like what impact you want to have, or like the purpose or the intention behind why you're doing it, like you're missing the mark. And so you need those things in order to have your online presence represent itself fully. And I think this is where people, kind of like think about it and they're like, oh well, I don't need that, I could just skip it, or like I'll build it as I go. And this is one of those things that I don't think you can skip, because let's be honest, we all do a lot of different things. Even between Melanie and I, we do similar things, but the way that we got and went down the path to becoming who we are and how we serve people and how we actually do what we do and why we do what we do is totally different, right? Like, we overlap in a lot of ways, but at the same time, like, personal branding also is knowing how you do things differently than somebody else. So, like, Melanie and I both help people on LinkedIn. The way that we do that, again, there may be some overlap. There's a lot of overlap, actually, but like the what's ingrained in us is different. Like, our process is a little bit different. The way we speak about it is a little bit different. And to be completely honest, our goals for it are a little bit different too. And so knowing that is what differentiates the two of us and differentiates both of us in LinkedIn Rockstar Academy from anybody else who's teaching on LinkedIn. And this is all just an example of like how, like, you know, how we have branded ourselves as LinkedIn strategists and LinkedIn engagement people and career coaches. Imagine what you can do for yourself. So absolutely, to your point, Mel, no, it's not fluff. Like, it is such a foundational piece of like how you show up, and I don't think people can skip it.
Absolutely. I definitely don't think this is one of the things that it can feel hard. It can feel difficult to get to that point of really having a clear personal brand. But here's the other thing too. I really want to encourage you, because during a coaching session with one of my coaches, because coaches have coaches, good
Heck
coaches have
yeah, they do.
coaches, I'll say. Um, she asked
Shout out to the
me,
coaches.
yeah, she asked me um, a question this week, which I haven't even told Shell this, which was very, um, it,
What? You haven't
it
kept me in the
got
loop. I'm shocked.
yeah, it was funny because I started down this path of she asked me, when was the last time, she's like, you call yourself a LinkedIn strategist, when was the last time you updated your LinkedIn profile? And I said, well, I often, and she's like, no, don't
Yeah.
start with the well, I know. And I was like, dang, we're not being nice today. I was like, really? But one
She
of the
applied the
things,
pressure.
I know it was very much, she's like, no. Like, when was, and I said, it's definitely been since January. It was December, January that I made a full blown, like a full blown edit of top to bottom. And she's like, if somebody came to you and said, hey, here's my goals for LinkedIn, and do you ask your clients that? And basically I would say, well, that does come up in conversation. Yes. Like, how often, what's your goals? What are you? And she's like, so you need to go and, because we were talking about attracting new clients and creating new opportunities for potential clients and things like that. So it was definitely the reverse of just exactly here. And truthfully, and she even said, she's like, I think your profile is probably 90% above what maybe an average profile is, which was a very nice compliment. And it pretty much is. It's not needs a massive overhaul, but there's definitely things that it needs updating. It needs some new keywords scattered through. It needs a little bit more information about the LinkedIn Rockstar Academy, things like that. I'm not helping myself, basically, is the gist of it. Is I'm in my head about a bunch of processes and systems and things like that I'm working on in the business to be better for my clients, but I'm not helping myself with the basic bottom line of like, hey, why don't you just go to your LinkedIn profile and actually clarify some of these things that are there? And again, that goes back to what my brand is, what my messaging is. It's all tied together from that. And so, like, we'll definitely check out Jeff's. He's got a new post out on AI, but this is a good example of, like, say for example, and Jeff's more in the tech space, and so we understand. Jeff has a connection to the AI piece. But say for example, which is not uncommon, but I'm just trying to think of a random professional. Like, you're a chef, and all you're doing is posting about AI. And we saw that, and then we went over to your profile, and then it's all about being a chef. We may not be able to connect. Well, it may be like an interesting topic you are interested in. Maybe you're exploring. Maybe you're, like, hey, during my pastime, I'm a geek. I love to geek out on AI tools or something. But there wouldn't be a connection there. And that's what we're seeing a lot of things happening. Maybe not that drastic of an example, but we're not seeing that connection. We're not seeing, you say you're this one person, but then we see over here you're this other person. So that's where the branding comes in. Does it make sense? Where does it fit? What bucket does it fit? Thoughts, Shell, on that? What are also some tools people can do to kind of start working on that if you haven't already? start working on that revision of your brand, or updating your brand, or creating a new one.
Yeah, well, just like we've talked about in the last few weeks, like I think it's important for you to like go back every so often, and maybe that's every quarter, every 6 months, at the very least once a year, and ask yourself like, are my goals still the same? And do I want the same things? Am I helping the same types of people? Am I helping the same types of people with the same types of problems, or has that pivoted a little bit? Because especially, and if we go with AI as the example, thank you, Jeff. Then like AI keeps changing too, and that keeps changing the way that we can um, access the world and show up online, and how we can utilize AI to help us do things more effectively as well. And that's not even talking necessarily about using AI as a resource. Like if that's literally like what your work is around, you're going to, and we could take anybody's profession right now and like talk about ways to do that, and it refine your personal brand. Like you have to go back and like, am I doing things that align with the way that things are trending in the industry right now? Like, do I need to update anything? Does my audience still want the same things? Do they still have the same pain points? Do they still have the same needs? Has that changed at all? And so you have to do that personal look like for yourself, but you also have to look at what the market is demanding and what your audience is wanting and needing, and then make sure that those things align. So I do, for anybody who's like just getting back into it or hasn't thought about it in a while, it's important to like go back to basics. And we've talked about this, like we could keep talking about it too. Like go back to, what are the goals? Do they align with what I'm currently doing? Do I need to adjust anything at all? And that's always like the basic like place to start, like the most foundational place to go back to. Like reassess what's changed, what's working, what's not, what do you need help with, and what's my next best step.
What do you think is hardest for people? Visibility, consistency, or confidence?
I I What's the hardest for people? I think it's a toss up between the three. Like honestly, uh, some people struggle with all three of those things. Some people struggle with one at any given time. Like I don't think there's one that like pulls ahead. If I had to choose one that I think is always combined with the other two, I think it's the confidence. I think like confidence is always a major player. Not well, not I don't want to say always. Most often a major player, in combination with people don't know how to show up, people don't know what to say, people don't know how to articulate what they envision for themselves. So I think like all three are really big factors, but like is does one show up more than the other, or a lack of one show up more than the other? No, I don't think so. I think it just depends on like life, how life is lifing at the moment. Like what are your thoughts on that? Do you think
Um,
one is clearly like,
I
driving
definitely,
the others?
I think it's the confidence, and I think it's I honestly do think it's. I mean, we see consistency as an issue, but I think it's also consistency is tie. I think consistency is the tie to visibility and consistency, or confidence is the tie to consistency and visibility. And the reason I say that is, oftentimes, if we're confident in something, if we feel really strong with something, then we'll show up, and then we'll like, we'll do it because we feel really strong and like, like very confident that, hey, we can do this. So the consistency, I think, is built from having the confidence in it. And I think that's the key of being able to, is building that is being surrounded by people, or being surrounded by individuals that can help build you up in that confidence piece. I think that's the other factor that I think is really important, is finding people that can encourage you to really share things. And it doesn't have to be something super vulnerable. To me, the visibility factor, I think there's a few things like understanding how LinkedIn works. I think that is important. Sometimes we see those kind of, we stumble out of the gate, so to speak, when we don't quite understand how the platform works. But I also think, again, it's questioning, well, should I post this? Or is it too personal? Or, am I going to be, we had this conversation earlier, am I going to be too harsh? Are people going to view me too harshly if I say something? And and honestly, that's something I question that all the time. And, Meryl and Adrian probably know this best, and like career coaches, sometimes can be I know I give a lot of tough love in career coaching. Okay. um, I do sometimes also in LinkedIn. I did have to kind of give a client recently some tough love when it came to LinkedIn and her goal, and like based on what her goals are. And she has, well, I know my team is going to probably see this, and they're going to question, what am I doing? I'm like, share that, like, you have a very specific goal about what you're looking to do, and that is to gain more visibility in your industry. So that doesn't mean you're leaving the company. So share that. Why are we, I was like, well, we can't have one without the other. And not to say that LinkedIn is I mean, we're here on LinkedIn, so obviously we're going to tell you, LinkedIn is a place to be. I do believe that, but there's other ways to gain visibility, obviously. But you're going to fast and furious. I think LinkedIn is going to give you that tool. So I can be a little tough. Meryl has heard me be tough, and so and I sometimes hold back even in engagement with others. I didn't. I kind of did the other day, but not fully. Somebody I made, and this man responded, and I literally was like, "Todd, that's just what I said." So I was kind of embracing our conversation, Shell. I was like, you know what?
Ah,
I was like,
he was
Todd.
he was a Todd, not a Chad. Okay.
He was a Todd, not a Chad, and I literally was like, Todd, that's just what I said. And I was like, thank you. And it was a little bitchy, but I was like, thank you. I so appreciate your input. I was like, but I was like, dude, I literally just said, and then another woman commented on something else. And again, I was like, and I don't know, it was about taking a job if it was less money or something like that. And she talked about something. I was literally about, cost of living, and we need jobs for cost. And I was like, well, number one that I pointed out is literally financial. Okay. So that goes under that. And I did acknowledge financial concerns in my comment. Okay. I was literally like, financial is the number one thing I listed. So I am trying to embrace that. I don't want to call it the more aggressive side, but not just being like, oh, well, thank you for that. And literally being like, no, I literally just said that. Okay. So, so I do think we have to, we have to do what feels natural and apologize. I feel like I'm all over the place tonight. So questions, drop them in the chat. We do want to see them. Yeah, pause or pause. Who knows?
I think it's interesting too because you talked about the visibility piece and we talked about the confidence piece. We didn't really touch on the consistency piece of that part too. And I think whether you are fully confident or not, I think the consistency becomes an issue when priorities are not aligned. Because life's as I've said before, and like whether you are somebody that follows your calendar to a T, or just goes more with the flow and things just happen to fall into place, or you just find time when you can to pop in and do your thing. Even I'm guilty of like doom scrolling sometimes. Like I have thing I do like having things regularly scheduled on my calendar down to like the smallest actions, whether I do them at that exact time or not. Like it's a good reminder for me of like, yeah, I got to get this done. Um and if I have my joy burst, shameless plug, by the way, uh if I have my joy burst and I can get locked in and laser focused on like what it is that I need to do, then I can show up here being the LinkedIn space that we're so fond of using, right? And I can be consistent and like do the thing. Now, what today's thing might be is may very much be different from tomorrow's thing or later this evening's thing. But I know in the moment, like the consistency factor for me is like, do I know exactly what I need to be doing right now? Or am I just coming here and aimlessly scrolling through my feed or like catching up on DMs with no purpose behind it? Like, I want people to, for the most part, more often than not, know exactly what you're doing at any given time. I don't want you to be throwing spaghetti up against the wall and seeing what sticks. I don't want you to just like aimlessly be, well, not aimlessly if you're in a job search, but like be hitting that easy apply button and taking no time to follow up with people or find connections or like doing any of the other pieces. So no matter where you're approaching LinkedIn from, I want you to build that consistency based on what are the most urgent priorities for me to tackle right now. Have I done them? What is the next step that needs to happen to move the needle forward? And I think that's where a lot of people drop the ball on consistency. It's not about posting every single day, but like, are you showing up? And we've talked about this previously. I don't know if it's been in the last few weeks, but certainly in the last few months of like, if you only had 22 minutes, how would you spend your time? Would you be dedicated to like, all right, today I'm searching for more people with this job title so that I can surround myself with more people doing the thing? Or maybe today I'm going to spend those 22 minutes leaving meaningful comments on posts where I know I can show off my expertise or like gain a little bit more visibility in my industry for what and have people see me for what I really want to get known for. Like, how are you spending that time when you're here? That's the consistency piece. It's not about like how much you're spending that time here. It's not about like all the things that you need to be doing, but like at any given moment, do you know what you're doing to move the needle forward? And so I think like that can also get people in their head, and if they don't have a strategy behind how are they showing up consistently and effectively, then I think that also can tie back into, well, now I'm not feeling so confident about how I'm showing up. So I think that's how those two go hand in hand sometimes too. Like, can all three of them happen independently? Absolutely. Can all three of them be happening and true at the same time? Absolutely. But specifically for the consistency and the confidence tied together, I think that's where they overlap, in that like somebody who is, doesn't really have a plan of action behind it may also then go into the spiral of like, okay, well, let me see what other people are doing, or the imposter syndrome of I'm not good enough because I don't know exactly what to be doing next. And I think that's like part of the missing piece of the puzzle is like, all right, getting clear on the strategy
I do think
for all those things.
yeah, you absolutely have to have. I mean, here's the thing: if you're on this I mean, obviously, we're all on this platform. We all have different goals. We have different aspects of what we're trying to achieve. So, and asking yourself, what is that one thing that I'm looking? If I show up on this platform, what is it that I'm looking to get out of this platform? I mean, that's the that's our goal at the end of the day. I put a question up for everybody. If there's one part of your profile you're not sure is working, drop it in the chat. We'll offer some tips on that as well as time allows. But this also goes to the strategy. How are we presenting ourselves? How are we, what are the stories that we're sharing? Do we know the stories that we want to share? Jay mentioned that, for him to get noticed, he posts things that, that he hopes builds momentum and inspiration, and getting feedback. And I think feedback is also a very good, feedback is really important of like what's working and what's not working. I will say this from a perspective of, both from being coached and coaching, is that you have to I don't want to say you have to accept the feedback, because you technically don't. There's people that I think don't accept feedback, or just simply are like, oh, okay, thanks, and then never do anything with it. And again, how much is that helping you? So I think you have to kind of like be in that mode of like, okay, I may not like what I hear. how can I, but I want to learn how I can do something better. And for me, that like, I always want to learn how I can do something better. So, it's very rare that somebody could say to me like, "Oh my God, your headline stinks" or something like that. And I'd be like, "You know what you're talking about, Linda." But sometimes clients will say things like, "Oh, that's too long of an about section," or, and it's interesting because all of a sudden, everybody has an opinion on how to do things. Um, 10 minutes prior, there was no opinion, no care in the world about how this looked. And then all of a sudden, it's, we care about how long the about section is. So yes, so definitely if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. It's been a little quiet tonight, which is fine. Would love to hear your thoughts on personal branding, challenges you're having with personal branding. And then, we'll also, as we get a little bit closer to 7 o'clock, share with you what's going to come up in the next couple of weeks as well, which we're
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to wait. We can just
true. We don't
segue
need to
into that
really
right now.
wait. That is
So,
true.
I mean, so here's the thing. We've been taught for the last few weeks, and even beyond, prior to that, we've really like dug our heels in, and we've been talking about personal branding and why it's important that you look into this, that you reassess it, refine it, and give it some thought. Um, now the next month we're going to be talking all about profile optimization, and we've gone in this order on purpose because now that you have been thinking about your personal brand and how you want to show up and what your goals are and how you want your audience to see you and interact with you and all of the ins and outs of these things, now we can build your profile and improve your profile. I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume, shame on me if I'm assuming incorrectly, that all of you here today have some sort of a profile in place, that you're not just starting from scratch. But even if you were, we're diving in on profile optimization month, the whole month of July, to talk more about like how you can effectively tackle each section. And we may not be able to cover that in the two lives. So of course, if you want to dive more in depth on any section in particular or get more in depth, support on something in within your profile, feel free. We encourage you to join us for the upcoming masterclass on that to dig a little bit deeper. But like this is the next step after you're knowing what your personal brand is and how you want to show up, because the next step is like, are you communicating that effectively? Can some to back to Melanie's earlier question, like, what's one thing that you want people to take away, like when they visit your profile? If you don't know what your personal brand is and how you want to show up, how are we going to communicate that in your profile? How are we going to make sure that your audience, and when people land there, that they know exactly who you are, what you do, how you can help, and what step they should take next? So that's why we've been working so hard on the personal branding piece in order to gear you up and get you ready for profile optimization month. So yeah, the cat's out of the bag in case you guys didn't already know that. That's what's coming in the next few weeks. And of course, Mel's put the QR code to the upcoming masterclass if you're interested in that. Mel, what else do you have to tell the people?
So
Tell,
I think
tell
it's
our
also,
tell our loving audience about personal branding month and profile
yeah,
optimization.
here's where personal branding also shows up in it's not, personal branding shows up everywhere. So when it comes to your profile, though, it should be everywhere throughout your profile. Like, it should be at the top in your banner photo. It should be in your, maybe not necessarily your profile picture, but it should reflect someone in your headline. It should reflect in your about section. And then the how part is your work experience section. So again, it doesn't matter the goal. It doesn't matter, am I a coach? Am I a consultant? Am I a job seeker? That part doesn't, quote unquote, matters. It's how we get there. And so I think that's something really important to understand, is like, we coach from that perspective of like, how do we get to that goal? So whatever your goal is, and the very first cohort that we did, we had a career coach and we also had a job seeker in our cohort, you know. So and very, you know, there was actually some synergies, which I always think is interesting when that line
Yeah, it's
synergies.
interesting that they were
Um,
both in like the DC area and they were both in the
yep,
same industry.
both
And
in the
like
same industry, had understanding of both of them had understanding of what they had, but you know, one had previously worked in the federal government, one is currently in the federal government, understood their role, the whole nine yards. So it's interesting how when you put, you know, pretty much put random people in a room together and all of a sudden there's like this massive connection of like, oh, I understand what you, oh yeah, like, and then, you know, Shell and I are over here like, okay, we don't have a clue what either of you know. I mean, we had a clue, but it was just literally like they definitely had a clue, much bigger clue than we did. So
I'm
um
laughing. I'm laughing so hard right now. I can't help it because of Meryl's comment. Meryl, to be completely transparent with you, I don't think I ever had the cat in the bag. I think it's always been fully out or like hanging on the edge there. And no, it's not Mr. Simpson that was in the bag.
no, Mr. Simpson is passed out.
You
He is
can't you
on
can't
his,
contain him. You can't put him in a box. Can't put him in a bag.
no, you
He just
cannot.
is.
Well, he did try to. I mean, he is trying to pack up some of his cat toys because we have packing stuff around here. Um, but yeah, no, he's
He's
asleep
just ready
on.
to move. He's
He is. Mr. Simpson is ready to move. He is ready to move to the Sunshine State and have sunshine because we apparently have none. Well, we did have some sunshine today for like 4 hours or something today in Maryland, but we've had none ever since. So, but no, he is passed out from an anxiety-driven thunderstorm because he gets very anxious and becomes a stage 5 planner. So, had this been during this thunderstorm, you so would have heard him because there was no like shutting him up or anything at that
But at
point.
that point, he wouldn't have been in a bag. He probably would have been under a weighted blanket or like supportive arms.
Yeah, like he is on
So
his just a side note that will answer Mel's question. Like so, my sister gives me they're called cat. The brand is called Wet Cat. Okay, and so they're Turkish towels basically, and they're super soft. And again, well, believe me, had some private behind the scenes IG conversations because I took a picture of Simpson on his wet cat. My sister sent him a wet cat towel for his birthday because he basically took my old one, which is the one he's sleeping on right now, and my sister sent a new. I have the new one, but so yeah, sent it for because they share the same birthday.
anyone, it's yours for now.
Yeah, well, it is in my bag, but he's literally sleeping, and even my daughter is literally. I sent a picture today, and she's like, "Is that stupid Turkish towel?" And I'm like, "That is his blanket in the bedroom or the living room." So that is what he's passed out on. That's where all his toys are. So yeah. So, but Wet Cat did respond that he was a very handsome cat, and that clearly he approved of the brand. And I was like, "Yes, if you would like to hire him, he is more than happy to endorse your product." So, um, but back to all things LinkedIn. But you know, again, Mr. Simpson's establishing a brand of the products that he prefers. Um,
Uh, maybe he needs to make an appearance on your LinkedIn banner or one of them. Uh,
I think I
going
think
back
I
to
could
Melody's question.
incorporate. I do think I could incorporate him in one of the banners. Of just I'm kind of
Like
playing
peeking out.
around. Just yeah, a little. He does have a picture. I will say this of his when his eyes get really big. He does kind of look like Puss in Boots from Shrek. So we do call him those Puss in Boot eyes. So um, so we have a whole thing in our family because he, as my kids say, he's the baby, and now all the attention and love is directed at him. So that's the whole thing in this family. But to Mel's question, any banner update tips or layouts that we both love, which I do think, and I'm going to touch on a very touchy subject because so one of us, there's this new thing called the rotating banner, and one of us had it for
Yeah, because
before.
I remember I had it before you did, and you
Yes,
were
one of us
mad
had
that
it
you didn't have it
before,
yet.
and I did not have it. So we know the other one, the one that had it, and then recently one of us. well, both of us got it, and then recently one of us lost it. And LinkedIn cannot provide, well, they've provided an answer to Shell as to why she lost it.
No, they did not.
Well, no, they did not
The
provide an
answer that they
answer.
gave me was that they don't know why I don't have it now, just that they can confirm that I no longer have access to it
So
as a
Shell
paid
does not,
feature, which pissed me
yes.
off even more since it is a paid feature. But yeah,
So Shell
so
does not have the rotating banner. So I'm not gonna speak about the rotating banner because I was under the impression that if you had LinkedIn Business Premium, everybody got the banner at this point. That was my impression. I know that is not accurate. I'll give a shout out to Bobby Umar. He does not have it. So I'm not going to talk about the rotating one. I do have it. I did have to drop that in there. So I could add a banner with Mr. Simpson in his big puss and big eyes. But and yes, he is truly a LinkedIn rock star. So that's actually a good idea, Adrian. That gives me some creative inspiration. Um,
yeah,
so
so so
banner, one
but
banner,
let
because you know what?
yeah, to like to people that do have the rotating banner though, um and this is so that I can talk about Melanie's question too. Like I have a little bit of FOMO that I don't have it right now. But like I do think that people that have access to it should take advantage of it. And because you now not only have one billboard when people come to your profile, but now five that can keep going on a loop to especially if you are multifaceted or have different services within your business or different ways that you help people, still try to keep like the call to action the same, that way you're not confusing people about their next step. But if you have different like ways that you serve people or like ways that you work with people, um certainly like now you have the opportunity to touch on more points and to capture people's attention. So take use that to your advantage if you do have access to it. But yeah, Mel, like definitely talk about like what you're seeing from and liking from a single banner perspective.
From a single banner, the things that I see that we don't need that I still see. I think we went through a trend where people are putting the name of yourself on there. We don't need your name because your name's on your like we see your name right there. That's even a trend that I like did for some of my clients, and then I've had some of those clients come back and I'm like, yeah, we're redoing that. We don't need your name. Like I look back and I'm like, well, that was silly. But we see those. So like sometimes if you're using the free templates or the templates that you find on Canva, because even those templates are only like $1, maybe $2 or something, depending on how many graphics and whatnot you use. So they're very cost wise, very minimal, even if you don't have the premium feature of Canva. So the cost for different things, I mean, it can add up if you add a lot of graphics and whatnot in there. So you cannot slow down the rotating banner to answer Sherilyn's question. I know that some people have found it to be a little too fast. I only have two things right now on mine, so I do need to Shell's point and to my other coach's point, I do need to take advantage of the tools that I have been given, because that was also something I coached on earlier this week as well for somebody. And so the other thing that I think that is really important is just having a banner that speaks to you. I think less is more, truthfully, when it comes to banners. I do know a few people where I feel like we've tried to jam everything in the kitchen sink on the banner, and it's just too much. And truthfully, even my main banner, I need to kind of go back. Actually, like I'll just put myself in the hot seat. Is literally the white verbiage that I have under. I don't even know what I have on my banner, to be very honest with you, at the top of my head. But my main banner, I think my white verbiage on the cell phone is too light, and I need to change that. So that is one change. Like again, going back to what I said earlier, small things that I need to change about my profile. This is something I pretty 99% sure I need to change. I'm looking at it right now. So like the font, my fonts that I don't pop on the cell phone and I want them to be more visible. So I think it's really important to understand the aesthetics more so than quote unquote design. I maybe I'm going through a minimalist kind of point of view right now. I could be. Um, I could be just, it could be my own phase, but I do think people try to put too much stuff on banners. Also, another thing that we don't necessarily need is a repetitive picture. If you're going to use a picture, do what Shell has done in the past. I wish we had some examples. I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but gives you a little bit of insight in terms of things we'll talk about as we dive into your profile. But use a different picture than what your profile picture is.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't have it right now. Right now, I've got my little Ghibli Funko thing.
your but even that, you have your cartoon with, and then you have your, so too many people sometimes, if they do add themselves to, I just saw this too from somebody, and not, I never name names of like who people are or anything of that nature, but like it's the same picture and it looks redundant, and it doesn't send, it's not sending the right message. So if you have a picture of you speaking, have a picture of doing a presentation where we can clearly see you, something like that, I think can give you, can, again, it gives that, it helps you, it helps personify your brand. And here's the other thing, and I'm not saying that we should, I don't want us to come off like I'm telling you to lie, but maybe you're looking to be a speaker and you just had, like, maybe you haven't done a full on presentation in front of like 500 people, but maybe you've done something small. Like, it still gives that, that persona, personifies your goal, and even you being up at a chart or something like that can, give that impression, if that's a goal that you're looking to achieve. So I don't necessarily have, I don't necessarily have a problem with that, per se. So, um, and, and I'm looking, Sherilyn, as I have them on my phone. So if you see me looking down, I have my profile up with the banner kind of, um, it definitely, it kind of feels like it might go. I don't necessarily like the stopping capability of it, but it is a nice. I think it, to Shell's point though, it is a nice feature if you're able to have it. So
Yeah, and I put an example of a single image banner that I'm really gravitating toward, and specifically for you, Melanie Richards, because you're somebody who regularly talks about trust and cultivates that not just for your own audience but those that you work with. And so I put the example in the chat of Lewis Butterfield's banner right now, and I've told him this as well. I One thing that I love that he has on his banner, I don't know if it'll make sense for everyone here, but like take a look at it and see. I really love that he's got the trusted by line on there, and he's not like naming every single brand or person that he's worked with, but he's naming like recognizable names, or like putting recognizable images there with people's profile pictures to show that he's actually doing the thing. And I think the fact that even that since he's not using names, like he's showing their profile pictures to show that like these are real people. I'm not just in reinventing the wheel. I'm not making things up. Like I have actually like it's proof. It's another way to show the digital and social proof that like he's an expert in his field and is actively like working with people, and probably like on the trust line, like he's probably asked for permission to be able to use their image in that way. But I don't see a lot of people doing it like that. I have seen the trusted by line or like a bunch of like as seen on things, and then people share all the logos on the bottom of their banner and tiny little, as much as they can. But like I do think that there's something to having the profile pictures there and having asked for permission to do that and like build the trust that way, because it amplifies his brand. Like it adds more not only visibility but credibility to what he's doing. So something that I've noticed on a single image banner, and I really like that he does it that way.
I would also say, and Sherilyn made a point, like standing in front of your HOA speaking, that's giving a presentation. So, like, if that's a goal of yours, if you're looking to build that image, you can create you can create scenarios and situations that allow you to present yourself in that. And that's, and that's just obviously an example of the goal. One other thing I would add about adding something to a banner, which would be a QR code, to be honest with you. So if you have an event, if you are sponsoring something, if you have a coaching program, yeah, we have the links and things like that, but making a QR code, and again, you can do this with Bitly. You can actually do it very simple. You don't have to even pay for it. I'm all for the freebie stuff as much as I can get. But you can take a link on through Bitly, and you can actually choose whether it's a link or you can actually do both. But you can create it into a QR code. So you can actually then download that image, and that you can shrink it to put it on your again, on your documentation. So, so that's one of the things that I think you can also do. So like, even if, for example, a job seeker, for example, I'm thinking out loud as I'm working with clients, hey, check out my portfolio, give the QR code, because sometimes the links we don't necessarily giving people. I'm always big on, like, whoever we're servicing, make it easy for them. Make it easy for them to access you and to reach you. So if you have a portfolio, if you have a website, if you have anything like that, hey, check out my website, and have that QR code, so that it's really super. It is easier to, maybe not so much on your phone because you need your phone to do it, but it would be really easy for me just to, like, if I saw a QR code, just click it and then I could go and access it. So that's also something too to just kind of play around with and think about. And I also think, like, coming up again, this goes back to branding. Like, what are, not so much, even not even talking about colors or anything. Like, what are statements? What are words that mean something to you? What do you, what topics, Mel Richards, trust is obviously one of the, Shell mentioned this, but it's the first word that I think of. How does that show up on the banner for you? So breaking it down. But then again, I want to see I want to see a tie from the banner to the headline, to the about section, to the featured section. I want to see these pieces show up. And then at the very bottom, and I tell my clients this from a job perspective all the time, at the bottom, those recommendations, I want people to speak about that. If we're aiming for a certain level, like if we're aiming for a high level leadership type of role, or we're aiming for, expertise in a particular area, I want your recommendations to speak to that, because that's going to add that, that's going to add that extra layer and that extra value to the table for that.
Yeah.
And look at
Love
that,
that.
it's 7 o'clock. When did that happen? You guys could have
Time definitely flies
we
when
could have
you're
just
having a good
sat here and
conversation.
talked all night long, folks. Like, what the heck? I was late. I'm not, Shell was not late. I was late. So, and
Technically, you weren't, but we were.
I was on time. I just
Guys,
had
here's what happened, and we can share this
the
fully
three.
because we've experienced it before. What happens as we near the 7 o'clock
I
witching
want
hour
to
is
preface.
that Mel gets hungry and it's past her dinner time, and so usually on Thursdays, and we've talked about this before. Sorry, like it's funny. It's a thing. And I know this about you, and I think our audience knows and appreciates this about you too. Like, she orders her food,
I
and
do.
usually the delivery person gets lost. So what had happened was she proactively ordered her food earlier today,
I did, and I usually do.
and they still
Honestly, I
got delayed.
always
So
do.
we were waiting on the delivery driver for dinner. Okay.
And it kept going 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And then and then I went downstairs, and then I was like, dude, I think you're past the stop sign. You need to come back. And then I was like, where are you going? I was like, I mean, I almost did text. I tried taking a picture. So now I have a random picture of my house on my phone. I have random pictures of a bunch of stuff, but, and
Who's gonna make this up? Like,
I was literally,
the
and then I was
delivery
like, well,
person
shit, I can't
regular
send him a
they
picture.
regularly get lost bringing her food and her dinner.
It and the funny thing is, it's not overly difficult to find my house. Like, I mean, I don't know.
This is when we need to like have like a big LinkedIn Rockstar neon sign that says LinkedIn Rockstar Academy, this way. Deliver
So
free
our
food.
house does not have our number on it right now. But I will say, I mean, our number's 23. 21 does and 25 does. Okay. So
By
my whole
process of elimination.
my whole thing is you should be able to figure out, and we also have a very blue door at our house. Okay. So like it is the only blue door. And so I give these descriptions. I'm all for trying to help people, but I'm literally like 21, 25. And then literally people are like, is it across the street? I'm literally like, no, it's literally on odds and evens. That's how we do houses. And I think everywhere. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
most places.
Most places, I'll just leave it at that. And yeah, that's, we struggle here in Baltimore. I'm not going to lie. There's some struggles happening in the city, and delivering food is an issue. I had to tell Shell the other day, I was like, girl, I got to go because I've got like 3 deliveries and we have massive porch pirates happening. I was like, because my sister was like, oh, your package arrived. And then the cat delivery food arrived. And I was like, I got to go. I've got like 3 packages. I'm asking to be robbed right now. Okay. Um, so, so yes,
So
so
that was our delay today.
that was our
So
delay,
just
and
a reminder, guys. Again, this is our third week of personal branding, and in our new setup, we have the two LinkedIn lives, like on the first and third Thursday of the month, and the master classes on the second Thursday. Next week we will be taking off as we prepare and gear up for profile optimization month. Again, that's all of July. So if there is something really burning that you want to ask us about your profile or how you can do something better, please feel free to like message or put it in our group chat. If you're not currently part of the group chat and want to be added, please message Melanie or myself or even Meryl, and we can add you. Because Meryl, you're so good at that, and we love you for it. So thank you. And once again, thank you all for coming and being part of LinkedIn Rockstar, and having this chat with us from week to week. We really appreciate you being here, and now we want to be able to support you in your LinkedIn needs and wherever you're at. So yeah, we look forward to Profile Optimization Month, and hearing more from you and what you want to work on.
yeah,
Last thoughts, Mel?
just gonna
You want to do my wrap up for today? Because normally that's my thing. But like I just did that whole thing and it doesn't
like I
feels
don't
weird.
know
I feel
about
like I need to pass
that.
the baton to you today.
But yeah, I mean, first off, take opportunities. I'm not going to do it just the way Shell does, but take opportunities to look at the people that have attended. Make sure you're connected with them, and look to see how you can get connected with them, and build relationships here. If you do have questions, please feel free to drop us a note. If you're interested in the masterclass coming up, I will say this, guys. I'm just going to be very blunt. It's a steal. If you just want to take one master class, it's a steal for getting 2 coaches. I mean, truthfully, for your profile, we're gonna walk you through how to do it. We're gonna, we're gonna. I mean, I'm being very blunt in terms of that, but it really is important. It really is. It's a tool that I truly believe in this, like our LinkedIn presence, because I've seen what happens with our businesses when we learned how to do it. And I'm not going to say the right way because there's so many ways to do things, but we definitely learned maybe the proper way. I don't know if that's the right word, but we'll leave it with that. So I'm going to leave it on
We
that.
learn how to figure out what works for us.
Yes.
And we're really good at helping people peel back the layers to figure out what will work well for them.
I like that. So if you have questions, please let us know. Super excited for the month of July coming up. Can't believe it's already here.
Yeah,
And
where did the
yeah,
month go? We just started June. Who knew?
I feel like we just did. I definitely feel like we just started June. So, but yeah, let us know questions, and thank you so much for always coming and supporting us.
Yeah, and if you're watching on the replay, feel free to answer some of the questions that we asked in the chat. We will absolutely come back and respond to you.
Perfect. We're going to close it out tonight then, folks.
Bye, everyone.